Our next speaker is Phil Godfrey, which is a great data scientist from NHS Business Services Authority. He's going to talk about the 6 lessons learned from UK's NHS Data Analytics Lab. So this is very important if you are looking for or working or trying to work in a machine learning project. Just learn from Phil, who has a lot of information, a lot of lessons learned to share with us. Phil, do you want to introduce yourself and start with your presentation?
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Adel. Hey, everyone. So my name is Phil Godfrey, and I'm a data scientist at the NHS Business Services Authority. I presented the last TechCast, and like John, I don't have the blue background that Charlie and Adel have. So the eagle-eyed viewers may notice that I was previously down in my kitchen, and I've recently moved to the study or office upstairs for a much more kind of permanent location. So I'm just going to share my screen 2 seconds. Okay, so can you see that okay, Charlie? Is that okay?
Yeah, we can see it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, today I'm going to talk about 6 lessons that we've learned from setting up the Data Analytics Learning Lab. And really just to kind of give you a flavour of some lessons that we've learned along the way, so that we can kind of all progress and move forward that way. So the aim of the presentation is to give an introduction to the NHS Business Services Authority, tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do. I'll also give a brief history of the Data Analytics Learning Lab, or DAL for short, which is the team that I'm part of. And again, you know, the real reason you're listening to me today is to listen to these 6 lessons we've learned along the way. And this would be useful, you know, for anyone really, anyone implementing their own data lab, or those of you who already have a data lab and want to take that forward. All of this stuff will be really useful to listen to and hopefully take forward. So just to begin with, a little bit about who the NHS Business Services Authority are. We are an arm's length body of the Department of Health and Social Care. We deliver a range of national services, all of which to help the NHS run efficiently. We are experts at managing healthcare information at scale, with a reputation for driving cost savings and efficiencies. We manage £36 billion worth of NHS spend annually. To put that into context, it's over 25% of the NHS annual budget. And our purpose is to be a catalyst for better health. And we use our data and insight to add value to the wider healthcare system. So a brief history of the Data Analytics Learning Lab. The DAL itself was set up around 6 years ago now. And Abby, who's going to be part of the experts panel later on, make sure to catch that as well. She was one of the founder members of the Data Lab and was here from the very beginning. And it was really set up to derive insight from data. Since that point, we've identified £1.6 billion worth of potential savings. And we've completed over 400 projects. The projects vary and cover all kinds of different things, including identifying potential savings for the NHS. It could be improving patient care, so like a really key initiative for us to take forward. And also things like identifying potential loss in the system, and just ways we can improve processes and make things better. Since then, we were the catalyst for capturing patient-level prescribing data. And again, this was pivotal in any of the kind of patient care initiatives that we've kind of undertaken. And as well as that, the capabilities and the skills of the team have kind of changed as we've gone along. I'll talk a little bit more about that in the coming slides, so I'll come back to that one. And what I wanted to share underneath, you can see there's a pyramid there. And this is just how our data and insight services all stack up. So this pyramid is by no way a relevance of like importance, but I think what is really useful to see is, so the data lab which I operate in sits at the top of that pyramid, but really what I wanted to say is that without all of the stuff that goes underneath, without that solid base, we couldn't do the innovative kind of work that we do without that. So at the very bottom of that pyramid, you can see you've got data management and data governance. So this is us accessing our data from an enterprise data warehouse. So having that data available, considering data governance and making sure that it's ethical in the terms of the analysis that we do, but also that the data quality is there. So we want to make sure that we're working with really accurate, up-to-date data that's safe for us to use. Sitting on top of that is the open data side of things. So we offer an open data portal where we have some data that's readily available to use. Sitting on top of that is the tools in which we kind of interrogate that data with. On top of that is the managed service. So as part of our directorate, we offer a lot of external reporting. There is an official statistics side of things, and also some business intelligence that sits on top of that. And then the DAL is at the top of that pyramid. As I mentioned, it's in no way that we're top of the tree, but mainly that we're in that experimental, innovative area. So where we try and do the kind of provide some novel and interesting insights from the data. A little bit about how we work. So within the team, I think going back from the very beginning and to where we are today, the DAL has always placed the business at the heart of the work that we conduct. And what that means is we always involve the business. So the business are involved from the beginning. And what we look to do is to try and answer a business question or solve a business problem. That is the kind of key driver behind the work that we do. Because we want to make sure we can create actionable insights. You know, we can do the best analysis in the world, but if we've got no one to drive and take that forward, then there's no real purpose in it. So we make sure we involve the business at the very beginning. We do all kinds of different initiatives. Sometimes the business is, you know, they're very clear about what they want and they're very sure of what they want. So it could be a particular business problem. But I've had other sides of the coin where it can be as brief as, this is a new data set to us, so what can you tell us about it? It can be as open and as broad as that. So we capture all of this information in a document known as a problem definition. So this problem definition looks to clearly outline the problem or the business question we're trying to answer and agrees the outputs. So the output could be an insight report, it could be a machine learning model, it could be a dashboard, it could be anything really. And then moving from that to the right-hand side, we'll go and get the data. So obviously the first question is, you know, is the analysis we're looking to do ethical? Do we have the right to be doing this sort of analysis? Providing that's all okay, we'll go and get the data via the data asset owner, providing they're okay with that. Once we've got the data, we will then go and do the analytics, which is peer reviewed within the team to just make sure that it's, you know, of good quality and of the standard we would expect. And then it's at that point that we produce the insights and share that back with the customer. And this bit's really important because without that customer buy-in, we can't create those actions to take those to drive those insights forward. Because really what we want is to make those actions turn into outcomes. And that is what gets us, you know, our improvements in patient safety, reducing loss in the system, identifying potential savings, all that kind of thing. So we offer our services NHS-wide. All of these requests are accessed and logged within a tracker. So at the moment we're using Jira to do that with. Each project has a business sponsor. And as I mentioned before, we follow the CRISP-DM method to manage our data mining projects. In terms of our customers, we do a lot of work with the wider NHS. So we've done some work with the Department of Health and Social Care, NHS Digital, NHS England and Public Health England. And in terms of the types of work that we do, we've been involved in, you know, a lot of things around improving patient care. We've identified some loss in the system. Another key one is, you know, driving up data quality. So there might be points where we'll identify data quality issues, which we can then feed that back to the business. All in all, it's, you know, really looking to improve patient care, reduce unit costs, or just identifying cases of loss in the system. So it's a really broad coverage of different types of projects, but all of which are really interesting and fun to be involved in. So moving on to the 6 lessons that I'm going to take you through today. The first one, for me, is probably the most important one, and that is understanding data is key. There's so much to be said about this. And the first, bubble that I've got there, the thought bubble, is ask questions. The first question for us could be, well, where do we go and find the data? What we found for us is that previously it was all stored in transactional databases that were around the business. So the first problem for us to solve was we needed to get this data into a single point where we could kind of do the analytics that we want to do without impacting the business processes as well. And that was where the DAL, or the data lab, was born, really, to kind of pull all this data together. The next question would be, okay, now we have the data, can we start understanding it and understand what's in there? And the first point for us to understand was, and it'll be the same for many other people, that data is primarily transactional. It wasn't built for analytics. So you often need to know what the data is being used for. With that in mind, you'll need to know what data is populated, what isn't populated, what's missing, and all those kinds of things, which then leads on to the next point of data quality. So if we know we've got missing values, we can try and handle those. But there could be something to be said of, I might find by doing some exploratory data analysis that I've found the same record appears 1,000 times. That might be relevant, or it might actually be a mistake. So it's that kind of information that I need to know in order to take my analysis and get the right outputs, which leads on to that equation at the bottom. And it was one thing that I want you all to remember, if you remember anything from today, is that bad data plus a fancy machine learning algorithm will always only ever give you a bad output. And what that means is I could have the best machine learning algorithm that I've spent months coding up. It's been tuned, I've done everything I could to it. But if I'm feeding bad data into that model, it's only going to ever give me a bad output. So that's really key, to make sure that you're working from good data to give you the best chance of getting the best output possible. The second lesson really follows on from the last one, is involve the business. The business areas know their data, and it's their business to know that. So, in terms of understanding your data, speak to the business, because, they work on that data every day. They know what's good, what's bad about it. And really it ensures that we can draw the right conclusions and draw the right insights to really make sure that we benefit the business. I think, the worst thing for me would be to go away, do some analysis on a wrong assumption, to then produce an output which is no good. But also look to involve the business for idea generation. They use the data on a daily basis. They know what works, they know what doesn't work, and they have ideas about what could be better. So speak to them and see how we can utilize this in idea generation going forward. The third point is around proving our worth. Like anyone else, we set a goal at the outset of the data lab, and that goal was the NHS BSA asked us to collaborate to deliver £1 billion worth of savings by March 2018. This wasn't just a target for us, but it was kind of an organisation-wide challenge. But we were very much part of that goal. And that links into the return on investment. So we want to prove our worth. And how we did this was identified a number of potential savings around, improving processes. It might be changes in policy, identifying loss in the system, to really show that return on investment. And the key thing for us was to start with that low-hanging fruit. So you'll see again that it naturally follows on from the last lesson. To identify that low-hanging fruit, you want to involve the business, because they know their data, they know the quick fixes that can be put into place to then, prove our worth as a proof of concept, as we were initially. The fourth lesson is shout about your achievements. And this isn't anything to do with, it's not to show off. It's really just to drive up interest and make people aware that you exist, about the work that you do, and really how to get in touch. So there's two angles that we found of this, which was the internal angle and the external angle. So when we, 6 years ago, we came in as a brand new team. The only people who knew about us was probably Abby, who was one of the only full-time people on the team, and maybe a business area we were doing some work for as a proof of concept. Outside of that, I don't think anyone was really aware of the work that we did. So what you want to do is to make sure you shout about your achievements, shout about the work that you do. One way we've done this in the past was to have a customer board where we look to invite multiple senior stakeholders, and we'll just talk them through, some examples of the work that we've done, to just kind of get the brains in gear to think, oh, okay, it's really cool to know you can do this sort of analysis. Wouldn't it be great if we could do that in our business area? And that then drives those next ideas forward, and so on and so on. And there's also the external angle. So it raises the profile of the team as well as the NHS BSA as a whole. But also, we can learn from other people. So, I watched Charlie's talk just now, and I know there's a lot of really exciting new ML stuff coming out, which I really want to kind of get to grips with. But it's a really good way to ask questions, learn from others, and really just to be, a collaborative user group, which is exactly, what this TechCast aims to be. And I had to get this in. So apologies to Charlie and Abby. I had to get these pictures in. So these are just a couple of awards that we won previously. In 2015, we won the Oracle Return on Investment Customer Exemplar Award. And in 2017, we won the Oracle Excellence Award for Data Management and Innovation. Really, I just wanted an excuse to get these pictures in. So you'll see those two on the expert panel coming up after my session. So please tune into that as well. The next point is around about a mix of talents within our data science team. So drawing on this Star Wars, Star Trek theme, in the same way that the Stormtrooper helmet has evolved over time, then so has our data science team. We've evolved with the needs of the business. So back in the day when the data lab was first set up, there was Abby as that full-time data scientist on the left there, with one full-time data consultant. The rest of the staff were made up of part-time, so we had a part-time data coordinator, statistician, and an information analyst. So a really small but nimble team. Since then, with the needs of the business, the team has grown quite considerably. At the moment, we've got 7 full-time data scientists. You'll notice that 3 of those have advanced from junior data scientist roles. So this was an opportunity we identified a couple of years ago now, where we felt we could bring in some junior level data scientists and then upskill them within the team, because we felt we were in a good place to kind of pass on our knowledge, work collaboratively to build those up. We've still got a statistician and a full-time assistant statistician, as well as a data lab manager and a data lab coordinator. So still a fairly small team, but it allows us to work on all of the different data sets that we're lucky enough to have access to now.
Hey Phil, I have a question on that one.
Yeah.
Are any of the people, you said you work closely with the line of business end users and those types, are any of those people that now have joined the lab?
Good question. Oh, no, I don't think so. We've actually had a couple of people join recently internally from different teams. So they've possibly seen the work that we've done and kind of wanted to get involved, which is really good. So we've had some self-promotion from within the organization, but the most recent ones have been external appointments. But it's good, because we're able to draw on experience from all kinds of different teams. So I think there's that natural progression. So you'll have, information analysts might have a desire to get into data science, and there is opportunities there as well. I think there's probably no exact path to being a data scientist and working in a data science team, because it's so broad, there's so many different skills involved. And I'll actually touch on that on the next slide. So nicely interluded, Charlie. So within our team, we view data science very much as a collective. So there's a graphic on the right-hand side you'll see there, which has a list of skills from all kinds of different backgrounds. I don't profess to have all of these skills. I don't think there's many people that would tick every single one. But we view within our team, it's very much a data science as a collective. So we, as a team, we come from various backgrounds. We've got people from purely research backgrounds. We've got very much pure statisticians. I myself come from a systems development background. So if you were looking at where I mainly fit on that diagram, it's probably going to be top right, programming database, and also communication visualization as well. Whereas maths and stats, when I first joined the team, was not my strong point. But because we had statisticians in the team, we kind of looked at it and thought, it's a learning and development opportunity for myself. And we do that now with other members of the team as well. So it's a really good chance to upskill and share our knowledge, which is really, really great and a good way for us to develop. And then the final lesson really is that feedback is so vitally important. But there's so many feedback loops. And obviously I've got some listed down on the side, which I will take you through. But what I would say, it says DAL there, or Data Lab, but this could be any team. There's so many feedback loops that we have in place. We've got customer to our Data Lab, and that might be one way we've tried to get some feedback is once we've finished a project or initiative, we'll send out a survey, and that survey will ask a couple of questions to kind of rate us on how did they find our performance, did they get the output they were expecting, would they use us again, and all of that's just a really quick, simple way to get some really anonymous, really quick feedback. And you can learn from feedback whether it's good or not so good. The other feedback loop we have is DAL to data quality experts. So as I mentioned before, when we're kind of understanding the data, which was that first lesson, when we're doing that, we might identify data quality issues. If we do that, we've got that feedback loop in place where we can pass these on. So there's various data quality experts that we have across the business, really, who take on these data quality issues. They'll investigate them, and then they'll ultimately look to fix them. And what that means is once they're fixed, it means that we're working from more accurate data. We've got the best chance of producing some really useful insights. And it's best for everyone, really. There's also the feedback loop from our data lab to the wider business. So this could be a case of, presenting some findings or some useful, interesting use cases that might get people thinking, oh, well, I didn't realize you could do that with your data. Wouldn't it be good if we could do this for our business area? And can we look to build that in and program it in as a piece of work? So really, I think feedback helps us progress, and it helps us get better along the way. As well as that, there is the feedback from our own needs. So I think, the way that we work is very much, it's fundamentally the same, but we've tweaked it here and there. And it's based on, ways we could work better. And that's just purely based from feedback and new ways of working. There might be some training needs that we would like to get some more useful information from. I know, Charlie, we had a session just before Christmas about some new machine learning stuff that's coming out that we thought the team would benefit from. So we've had that assistance from Oracle as and when we needed it. So those are my 6 kind of key lessons that we've learned from the data lab from in the past 6 years. But really, in summary, it's actually much more than 6. I've jotted down about 13, but I thought if I called the session come along and listen to me talk about 13 lessons I've learned that you probably wouldn't join in. So I thought, but I still think they're relevant, so I'd like to kind of get them in at the end. So I think having a really clear idea of what data analytics will achieve for us was one of the key things. We had sponsorship at executive level. Started with a proof of concept to prove the investment was worthwhile.
Hey, Phil?
We picked up, yeah.
Hey, I got a question here. What is the executive level for you? Is that the Prime Minister of the UK, or what's
No. So the executive level for us would be our leadership team. So kind of chief exec, senior directors, that
of the
kind
UK
of thing.
NHS, of the UK NHS.
Yes, yes. So it's within,
But it was a national mandate or something too, though, right? Wasn't it a political thing to some degree, right?
Potentially. I think it's really just to kind of get the best insights out of your data possible.
Got it.
And it was, I think, as a business, it was maybe a little bit of a turning point. So going from that transactional view of the data to an analytical point of view. So I think, like I mentioned previously, being the catalyst for getting that patient identifiable information in there is to kind of show what insights you can drive from the data, which gives a reason to collect it going forward. Going back to picking that low-hanging fruit first. So that's back to the second lesson I had earlier about speaking with the business. Oracle provided support to us to get us up and running. The project itself was driven by business people and not IT experts. We ran engagement programs before the project began to get people interested. And we had engagement from that senior leadership team in the process. And that was really to prioritize work, to make sure that what we were doing was aligned strategically to what the business wanted. We had, and still do, have a motivated team with complementary skills. And the work, was and still is incredibly interesting. We've got a range of data sets, which we're lucky enough to work on. We've continued to promote our work, and that is vital to getting people aware of what you do and why you do it. I think one thing that we found interesting lately is another way to kind of get yourselves out there is to, when a new member of staff joins, or if someone has an interest in what we do, we normally give them a kind of whistle-stop tour of the types of work that we do. Whereas at the moment, we're doing this virtually, so we're kind of taking on board virtual tours, which works quite well. Driving the data governance agenda for the whole organization, that just totally feeds into the data quality aspect, making sure that what you're building on in terms of doing your analytics is sound data, accurate data, so you can have confidence in your results. And we've widened our networks. We've reached out to other organizations to offer them support and to work collaboratively as well. So thanks very much for listening, and I'll open up for any questions if there's any in the chat.
Thank you, Phil, for this. This was a great content, and something that it's really important about what you said about the importance of data. We are usually, as IT people, just, we have the tendency to just jump into the technology without, taking enough time to review the data with accurate data noise, cleaning, are you going to use historical data, how many years, and other stuff. So everybody, yes. If you have any questions to Phil, please submit it in the Q&A box. Okay, so we can give a few minutes to people, but I think that it was very, very, very interesting, and it totally represents what's happening with a machine learning project. It's totally that. It's totally that.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think there's a risk to going straight into like the machine learning model aspects, because you can draw the complete wrong conclusion. Exactly. Not because you've meant to do something wrong, but just because you might not realize there's a gap in your data. There could be missing values. You could even find that a field has changed use over time. So it might previously have meant something and now means something else.
Exactly.
All those kinds of things. And that's where understand your data is massively key.
Yeah.
I think I spent most of my time cleaning data, to be honest. Cleaning data, reading up about it, and then the fun stuff comes at the end.
Totally. For me, it's 70-80% of the project is working on the data and get the right data. And another thing that you said is so important is to involve the business users, because this is another tendency that we have as IT people. No, we know everything. No, we know everything, and it's not like that. So we have a question here. Give me 1 second. Rakesh asked us, how do you decide on which use case to take up first?
It's interesting. Usually what we tend to do is we'll review each use case. Sometimes it'll be depicted by timescale, so how long something would take to complete. Other times it can be based on the impact it's going to have. So if there's something that has potential to save a lot of money, to improve patient care, those kinds of things are the ones that we look to do straight away. There might be other ones that are more aspirational or longer term. We might park those till later on, till they're fully formed and kind of ready to be taken forward. But we do try and go via a governance board as well. So these are kind of senior people around the organization who feed into the types of work that we're suggesting to do, and they'll help us prioritize that work going forward and program that in. But it's a really good question.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Phil, I've got a question here from a fellow Kenny in Kansas, who is asking whether or not there are any stories you can share, not that you're being recorded or anything like that, but just any kind of colorful, I remember there was one story about a dentist, or anything about data. I mean, if you're at a cocktail party and you're saying you wouldn't believe what happened at work, do you have any good stories to share, like something colorful or interesting about bad data or something that you really discovered, or some really, interesting find that you could share? I know you can't share much, but
yeah, I was going to say there's not too much that I could share.
It's medical and health, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's the usual, the interesting stuff when there's potentially been a system glitch and it's looks like it's duplicated 1,000 records. We've seen little bits of that here and there, which I think everyone's had similar. But with those types of things, it's just a case of identifying it, putting the fix in place, and removing them.
We have another question. Sorry.
No, please, go.
From Steve, he said that, do you have a formal process for request to be fed from the wider business? Does your team or business analysts gather the requirements?
So other departments within the business? Is that?
Yeah, from the wider business, yes.
Okay.
If you have a process to gather the requirements from different areas, different departments.
Yeah, so we regularly speak to other areas of the business. Obviously, the NHS is huge in itself, but even within our organisation, we've got many different teams. So we do have regular conversations with people in and around the business, and it's really just a chat to understand the data and understand any problems they might be having. So one thing I know you've probably been the same, and I'm sure many people are, is people around the business will know what the problems are because they work with the data all the time. But sometimes what they might not know is the useful way in which you could answer that question. So it could be, doing some predictive analytics or a supervised machine learning model. And that's kind of where we come in, would be coming up with innovative ways to answer business problems or questions. But we do have regular conversations with areas around the business. People within our organisation can contact us and submit suggestions of, hey, I've had this great idea about this. Can we have a chat about it? Can we talk it through? And we've done that, and we've had some initiatives come on the back of that. So it's really nice to see something from start to finish, starting off as a little seedling and then growing into a fully blown initiative, which ends up with a really useful outcome. So it's really nice to see. So it is very much collaborative. We also have a little bit of a space for kind of team-inspired initiatives. So I might be working on a particular project in I don't know, just say in prescriptions information.
Well, his internet cut out there for a second. There he is.
Yeah, so I might see something that's totally outside the scope of the project that I'm working on at the moment, but I think it might be really interesting to explore. So I might put that down as a team-inspired initiative. Wouldn't it be great to look at this?
That's good. That's great. Like a
Hey,
brainstorming sessions. Yeah.
So I have a question. Right now a lot of us are working remotely, but when you're not required to work remotely, is your team all centralized in one place, or the UK, NHS, and DS, they're all over the UK? Are you guys like embedded in different locations to work with business guys?
Yeah. So as within our team anyway, we're predominantly based in Newcastle, in the northeast, but we do have some team members in Eastbourne, which is down on the south coast. So we couldn't really get further apart in the UK. So we do a lot of virtual stuff anyway. So to be honest, being at home has probably helped because we're now online every day. So we've actually grown probably closer as a team because of the pandemic, which has been really nice to see. But in terms of the business that kind of dotted all over the place in the UK, in various different sites, but we're predominantly based in Newcastle. So for the most part, most of our team are in one place, which is quite useful. Cool. Whereas at the moment, we're all at home. So very much spread out, but still able to connect on a daily basis as well.
Excellent. Adel, any more questions?
Yes. Also from Steve Rudiant, he's thanks for answering the previous question, and she's got one more.
Yeah.
How do you avoid being overwhelmed with requests and therefore over-promising and under-delivering, especially when it comes to conflicting or changing priorities?
Very good question. So yeah, in terms of that, I think we've probably learned as we've gone along. So as data scientists, we know that we don't really want too many projects on in one go because, you'll know yourself how demanding some of them are. You have to be so involved in the project. So you do have an awareness of how long something might take. So we do try and make sure that we're not overloaded as individuals. In terms of trying not to overpromise, I think it would just come as probably programming the work in. So you'll have a program of work for that year. So you'll know roughly what you're going to be working on. If something new jumps in, which is very much something we need to be working on, we can pause other things and pick other bits up. So we do have some things where they need to be turned around really quickly, and we just drop what we can to pick those things up. But it's a bit of a juggling act sometimes. It's thinking on your feet, but also I guess shouting up if you are stuck. If you do feel like you've got too much on, try and park things. But we certainly try to be realistic with our deadlines as well, because we want to make sure we can deliver the best insight possible. And you couldn't do that if you were rushed too much. So just being kind of honest about how long things are taking. And if things do take longer sometimes, but just speak with your customer, explain those issues, and 99 times out of 100, they're absolutely fine with that as well.
That's great. And we have another one from Matisha Nikik. Sorry if I mispronounce some of the names. Do you use cloud-based architecture, or is it on-prem, given the sensitivity of the data? That's a very good one too.
It was on-prem, but we're recently cloud-based. but it's very much secure. Obviously, with the nature of the work, with the nature of the data that we work on. Yeah.
So it's on-prem or in the cloud? Yeah, that was my.
How much cloud? Because I remember when you were moving up to the cloud, it's been some time, but are you guys like mostly up in the cloud now, or sort of a little bit here, a little bit there, a lot here, a lot there?
Yeah, a bit of both, to be honest. So we're still a mixture. So we do have some data sets in the cloud and some still on-prem, but we're moving to the cloud.
A lot on the cloud then. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Any more questions? Last call, guys. We're really, I'm thrilled that Phil agreed to join us here. We invited him on, and I mean, they tell such a good story. I'm waiting to see this on 60 Minutes. Now, I always say that to Phil because I don't know if he has 60 Minutes over there in the UK, but I mean, over $1 billion, of identified savings and hundreds of millions of confirmed. I mean, this is why you do data analysis, right? This is really good stuff. So thank you very much, Phil, for joining us here today.
We have another one. Just just one. Is it Oracle Cloud using autonomous data warehouse, or which cloud are you using? So
we aren't autonomous data warehouse, I don't think.
Good. Thank you. That was our last question.
Okay. Well, thank you, Phil.
Thank you so much, Phil. Great session, really.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you.